Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon. I am Robert Press, your host of Talking Politics. As you can see, this is my official New York press pass or press card. And if you notice, I am no longer wearing glasses because I have had eye surgery and my vision is much better. So I can see without the glasses. Unfortunately, my co-host today, Mr. Anthony Ravecchio, was talking about a funeral or something. I don't know if he died or one of his clients passed away, and he has to do all the paperwork because that was the arrangement he had with his client. So I will be joined in a little bit by Mr. Belmont, or I should say the mayor of Belmont, Mr. Jose Padilla, when he comes on. But I'm going to start off with some local news. If you go to my blog at www.100% Bronx.blogspot.com, you will find the latest crime figures, which are up 31% citywide. The Bronx is no different. Some precincts are a little lower and some precincts are a little higher. Okay, what is down is murders, but that's about it. Everything else is up. Stolen cars, GLA, grand larceny, everything else is up. Crime on the subway, even still. So if you want to check out the numbers, just go to my blog. Also on my blog, you'll find the latest COVID numbers, which are increasing. The Bronx is just about at 10% reporting, and Queens has reported over 10% the last 3 days. So it's time for the governor and the mayor maybe to do something with the rising COVID numbers, because now there are 10 different variants of COVID. What's happened is Delta has morphed into 5 different variants. There's A1, A2, B1, B2, B1.2. So they're not as bad as the original COVID, which I had. I had the original COVID back in March of 2020. It went through me in 5 days. And the then Commissioner, Dr. Chachi, as well as Dr. Katz, who was the head of health and hospitals, said, well, since you had the original COVID, it went so fast, you're immune to it now. And a lot of people who do not have any underlying conditions, for instance, if you're a diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, if you have any underlying condition, you may still get COVID even though you had it. And I see my new co-host has come on, Mr. Jose Padilla. I've just spoken about the rising crime at 31%, the latest for June compared to June 21, and the rising COVID numbers, which in the Bronx are almost at 10%. So would you like to introduce yourself? Okay, here's our city-wide crime stats. And when Mayor de Blasio was in, Mayor de Blasio had safest big city. All right. That was his theme, that he was the mayor of the safest big city. But let Mr. Padilla introduce himself. Jose.
Hey, good afternoon, Bob. Nice to join you this afternoon as your co-host. As always, my name is Jose Padilla Jr. I'm a former district leader for the Bronx, former Bronx community board member, and a long-time local political and community activist. It's great to join you this afternoon, Bob.
Okay, I'm just going to go over, there's not much more I could say about crime. It's up and it's terrible. These kids are just traveling around and they're going on these e-scooters and mopeds, 2 on there, and then one gets off and they attack somebody, or it's just getting out of hand. Unfortunately, I am not able to ask Mayor Adams or Commissioner Sewell what they are doing, because it appears they are doing nothing. The 4th of July, there were hundreds and hundreds of complaints here in the Bronx about fireworks. It seemed that fireworks were just going off at all times up to 2, 3 in the morning. And when people called the police, nothing happened. All the police had to do basically was just go to where they were being shot off. They were being shot off in the schoolyards, in the parks. So that's all where the police had to go. And as you see the different precincts here, are coming up. All you have to do is just click on one of the precincts and you'll see how the crime is for the past week, the past 28 days, and the year to date compared to last year. And crime is way up from last year.
You're absolutely right, Bob. It is up at least 31% from June of 2021. But remember that the interesting part of this is that despite the fact that shootings and murders numbers have gone down, the issue here is the grand larcenies, which have gone up almost 41%, robberies 36.1%, and burglaries 33.8%. And so this is all basically people's property being taken away, and robberies being committed. So those numbers have gone up. You mentioned something about the NYPD not being able to do anything. I think at this point, based from the commissioner's press conference yesterday, they're trying to do the best that they can. Unfortunately, we have seen a substantial increase of people where they have no care. They're careless. They realize that there are no consequences for many of their actions. And so, the strategic swings from, trying to bring one level down and then, shifting and forwarding from one place to another is very important here. So, but interestingly enough, my precinct, the 448 precinct, is one of the top 5 in the Bronx. So, we've seen a substantial amount of crime here in the Bronx. And, if you remember going back to 2021, March of 2021, I had predicted that something like this was going to happen.
Wow. Basically, almost anybody could have predicted that. Jose, do you have any comment on the COVID numbers? Back in April, the Bronx was in the 1 percentile. All right, we had 1% of the people testing positive for COVID. Now we're at 9.73%. Okay, and that's only in a few months. So, how is your area doing in COVID?
Our area recently was doing well in terms of the numbers. They had gone down, but it looks like now they're beginning to increase. What's interesting enough is that in the past, when COVID had initially begun, people were really reluctant to actually get the vaccination. And, now it appears that they are getting the vaccination. We have to look at the numbers to see how many people have actually gotten the 3rd and the 4th shot, the 2 boosters. I myself have gotten the 3 shots. I've gotten the 2 plus 1 booster. And so, and I'm very careful. I'm still careful as to where I go and what I do. And when I'm inside in a place where there are a lot of people, I still wear my mask. So, I do take precautions. People I do see out in the neighborhood are actually taking precautions. But unfortunately, we are in the situation where we have a large congregations of people out there in the streets. And so that could be a possible, a reason for the increase in the numbers.
Well, the crime stats are up for the week of 6/27 through 7/3. This is the Bronx. This is citywide. It looks like, or is it? Can we go down a little bit more? Well, all right. This is not citywide, I don't think. Or is it? Yeah, murder is 210. Yeah, that looks like citywide, either citywide or the Bronx. And you can see there are increases everywhere but murder. Yeah, that's citywide. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, and there are big increases in some grand larceny is where over $1,000 is stolen. Like, for instance, someone breaks into your car and steals your computer or whatever. That's grand larceny.
Well, one of the interesting points here, Bob, is that we have to remember that now grand larceny auto has increased. And you see that throughout our neighborhoods where a lot of people who have these specific vehicles, specifically Hondas, Toyota Camrys, Highlanders, they're being stolen. And a lot of them are being used wants the plates removed to commit other crimes, as we saw in one of the shootings here in the Belmont section over the 4th of July weekend. There was a vehicle that was stolen from the Norwood section, and it was driven after the removal of the plates. And what they do is sometimes they put on these paper plates and they go around utilizing those vehicles to commit additional crimes.
Well, I'm going to pull up something from my phone now and show it. This is a press conference with Mayor de Blasio, if we can show my face here. Okay. This is safest big city with Mayor de Blasio. That's Commissioner Shea. So that's a recent photo. It's about a year and a half old. And you see the others with him. Okay. So I don't know what happened from the safest big city to now. All right. We have about a year and a half where we've gone from the safest big city to one of the number 3 worst big city. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. Perhaps Mayor Adams can just get some stuff done. But let's, I just want to get into a little politics here. All right, that's our forte, if I'm correct here, Mr. Padilla, right?
Oh, absolutely. But Bob, the interesting with the politics is that there's so many topics that you can discuss on and so many policy issues. I mean, not only locally, but at a citywide level, a statewide level, and nationally, it's a complete disaster. I mean, there's so many things that we're dealing with, not only as a society, but economically that, you have to kind of pick and choose what your interests are going to be and try to, maintain your level of comfort and your level of economic, stability.
Well, we have our elections, and they were thrown out, the lines. The assembly lines were kept in because there wasn't enough time to redo them. But we had the, statewide election with the assembly and the party positions. And August 23rd, we're going to have the congressional and Senate line, elections, whoever's having a primary. And then November is the regular election. Now, this primary in June, the turnout was extremely low. And early voting, basically, you had more people standing in the poll sites than voters at sometimes. All right. So with that low turnout for the June election, now we're going to go over in the second half who's running in the state and congressional races in the Bronx. But I don't see any better turnout comes August 23rd. You're in the middle of summer. People are away. They can vote by absentee ballot. But what do you think is going to be the turnout in August?
Well, judging from, the fact that even though the Board of Elections has sent out notices, now indicating that there are going to be 2 elections, the one that we had passed on June 28th and the next one coming up on August 23rd, it really, people are not really interested in what is really going on politically, despite the fact that these issues are really affecting them. We saw that in the polls. It remains to be seen. I believe that the numbers will be lower. Possibly, we really don't have the governor's race, which is a top leading election. Now we have the congressional, and then here in the Bronx, congressional races are non-existent. We have AOC doesn't have a race. Richie Torres doesn't have a race. The only one who does is in the 13th. So the races that will go underneath them, which is the state senate races, could potentially suffer. The only race I believe here in the Bronx would be SB Yacht in the 13th, where he has Francisco Spatz.
All right, let me go over the June primary with you, the results, because I want to recap how I did on my predictions. I predicted that Kathy Hochul would win, and I also predicted that she would have Anna Maria Archila as a lieutenant governor, which we saw didn't happen. On the Republican side, I predicted Andrew Giuliani would win. He won New York City, but we saw Lee Zeldin won the state. Any ideas of what you had on the governor's race, lieutenant governor, and the Republican side?
Well, the Republican side was, a contentious race. Astorino really, even though he ran in the previous governor's election, really didn't get any weight past, Rockland County. Obviously, in Westchester, they know him as a former Westchester County executive. But Lee Zeldin was, people actually, a lot of the GOP leadership supported him. So, the money was there. Going into the November election, I think it's going to be a little bit different because, Kathy Hochul has $34, million dollars, and that's a large war chest to fight against. Despite that, maybe Zeldin might make inroads with a lot of the issues that we have going on. The issues that are affecting daily individuals that go to work every day, bread and butter issues, economic issues, taxes. People are being taxed out of the state. And so that he may have a chance there. Drawing a lot of conservative Democrats, and a lot of the Democrats have really gotten against the Democratic Party. So that remains to be seen. Kathy Hochul, on the other hand, she was the Democratic Party's choice. Here in the city, they supported Jumaane Williams on a fairly large amount. And the surprise here was that Tom Suozzi didn't do as good or even better, than what he did, because, Nassau County knows Tom Suozzi very well. He's a conservative Democrat, which some of the Suffolk people would have appealed to, and also passed, Westchester and going up. So that was a surprise there.
Anthony gave Tom Suozzi one of the Northwest Bronx Democrats' Humble Pie Awards for coming in a poor third. Okay. Anything on the lieutenant governor's race? I didn't think that, what was his name again? Delgado. He's only been in there a little more than a month, if that much. So I didn't think he would, get that. But obviously, like you say, Hochul spent her money to put her ad up with him and got him in. Yeah.
I think what was effective was that, remember that right before the election, they did a couple of commercials where they came out and that they said they would be working in partnership. Not really too many people were paying attention to the debates. People really weren't paying attention to what was really going on. But the commercials that aired, helped out Delgado. Delgado's not really fairly known outside of the district that he was a congressperson in. And, he had a couple of ads that he had that were on his own. And then when they decided to put the ads together as a team, obviously, we saw the result. Right. Surprisingly enough, Diana Reyna didn't do as well, as I think that she could have done. But Archilla had a message, and I think that message resonated with a lot of the people that are experiencing a lot of the economic uncertainty that we have going on right now. So, remember that the DSA, they took away the endorsement of Delgado. So that definitely role. I think they went with Archilla and Jumaane Williams.
Mm-hmm. In the Bronx, in our five assembly races, DSA backed two candidates against the old regime, the Bronx Democratic Party stalwarts, Jeffrey Dinowitz, who is the secretary of the Bronx Democratic Party, and Michael Benedetto, who is the treasurer of the Bronx Democratic Party. So AOC and the DSA backed two of their opponents, but it appears those two held off, and the third amigo, Jose Rivera, who was out there by himself against two opponents, not one, but two opponents, lost. How did Jose Rivera lose? It's your district. Please tell us.
Yeah, it's a shame because I reside in the 78th, and I'm also in the 33rd senatorial district. And normally, if you look at Jose Rivera's numbers from like 2012, which was the last redistricting, over to now, He normally has anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 votes. He has a number of loyalists that usually go out and support him. I think that this time around, he was like the last emperor standing. People did not go out to vote. I myself, I'm gonna say this to you, live on air, Bob, but I didn't vote in this election cycle. And I was a former district leader, and to see the three candidates that were on that ballot, it left a lot to be desired. So number one, low turnout. Number two, all of the evil that has been long-standing from last elections against the iconic Jose Rivera. I think that that came to a resolve now. And then obviously the fact that George Alvarez was supported by the a lot of the West Siders.
Right, Congressman Espaillat, Congressman Torres. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have Marina Sanchez, and and even I'm going to say a local candidate that ran for the city council back in 2021. Aisha Bravo was at the so.
Right. Well, let me continue why Jose froze up for a moment. So, I mean, this is nothing new. My other co-host, Anthony, freezes up a little. You're going to probably have to go off and come back on, Jose. But let me continue with my comment on Jose. Like I've said in the past, that I've always said he's going to lose. I said he would win. I hope I didn't jinx him. And this year I said Jeffrey Dinowitz was going to lose, and he won. So maybe in 2 years, looks like both of us froze up. It's at the office. I hope I'm still being aired, that I said Jeffrey Dinowitz would lose, and he won. So in 2 years, I'll call for Jeffrey Dinowitz to lose. Let's go to commercial break right now, okay? Let's go to a commercial break.
America Open Market, AO Market. The best digital market for humanity is a free multilingual borderless market open to international sellers with various languages included. With America Open Market, you may start selling in minutes after filling out the form. Comprehensive dashboard where you understand your sales, orders, and customers is available. You get paid directly, securely, and instantly on the America Open Market. You can sell your house, car, electronic laptop, CD player, boombox, phone, headphones, furniture, and clothing, and anything on AmericaOpenMarket.com where all your sales and customer needs are met. Register as a merchant today. You will not regret becoming a vendor at America Open Market. For further inquiries, contact us at aomarket@gmail.com. AO Market, best digital marketplace for humanity.
Okay, I'm back. Hopefully my co-host for today, Mr. Jose Padilla, will join me in a little bit. Let me continue a little bit on the assembly races. As I was mentioning, Jeffrey Dinowitz, he won his race in just about a little bit more than he did against George Diaz 2 years ago. So it didn't appear that the AOC backing of Miss Jessica Wolford helped, because she didn't get as much as George Diaz got. So it appears that the Northwest Bronx AOC has no effect. As far as the 82nd with Michael Benedetto, she did have a real effect, because Michael Benedetto just made it over 50%. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he got 54%. Let me look at my figures over here. That's the 81st. Okay. I'll have to look somewhere else for them. Yeah, this is what happens when you do a live show, unfortunately. Here we go, the 82nd.
Bob, interesting enough in that race with Soto, Benedetto, and Al Quantenbaum. Al Quantenbaum was really not he really didn't make a difference. So what was it?
No. He got less than 8%. He got 598 votes. Benedetto, though, only got 56% of the vote, which is pretty, low. Normally, an incumbent would get in the 70s or 80s, and Jonathan Soto got 36%, which was very good. All right, so that showed the AOC effect a little bit more, and Soto might have won. Okay, but as Benedetto said, Soto had no real credibility. All he could say was, "I'm a parent." He had no experience on a community board, no community experience, nothing. So, that's the problem. You got to have some sort of experience to run.
Right. In that aspect, you see a lot of the infighting, not only in that district but in the Riverdale district. And even in some of the smaller races, like the 978 Assembly District, where you have two district leaderships, a male and a female, that come from two different slates. And, you have not so much as county committee people this time around, but, you have different slates of winning. So you could see the dissent between the conservative side of the Democratic Party, the DSA side, and so, there remains to be seen how this will continue going forward into other elections here in the Bronx.
Right. Well, I just want, since you're back, I want to go back to the 81st, because while Dinowitz won, he only member of his tree that won was the male state committee, which was Michael Heller, who just squeaked out a win. Jeffrey lost the two district leaders, William White's. If the lead holds up of Radmat Singh, it's about a 340 vote lead. With absentee ballots coming in, Jeffrey is the king of absentee ballots. But
right.
And Abigail Martin will be the female district leader, and it looks like Morgan Evers will be the female state committee leader. Although again, she only has about 57 vote lead, so it's tight there. But Jeffrey's tree, as Anthony says, seems to be falling apart. All right. Since Randy Martos and his son Eric were the district leaders, he can't find anybody. So,
and also the power of the old forceful Benjamin, Democratic Club, which was once a staple in that area.
Right. Once Alessandra Biaggi became the state senator, the power of the Ben Franklin Club seemed to, drop and drop and drop, and we saw the result this year.
But also, I think, Bob, not only that, but you got to remember that, now we have individuals that have been so long in the political atmosphere here in the Bronx that everybody's becoming of age, so to speak. They're becoming older, and a lot of them really are starting to dwindle, and they don't want to get involved in the political arena anymore. And the new generations that we have now are the ones that you see running as contenders in some of the races that we've had in the last couple of years.
And I'm just going to quickly go through the 84th with Amanda Septimo. She won with less than 50%, which shows that she can be susceptible to somebody. Albert Torres got 35% against us. So, and then there was a three-way race. If it was one-on-one, maybe she would have lost. We see
it could have been a potentially closer race, And what's interesting in that race is that if you look at what I just spoke about, the lower party positions, we have again the two different slates winning. Armin Arroyo was the female district leader. So that was she was the assembly person in the past. And now Amanda Septimo is still the assembly person, for the second term.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
that remains to be seen how this is all going to work out. With all these district leaders coming into play.
two more races in the 86 Assembly District at Decatapia, while she only got 2,100 votes, showed that she got 81% of the votes, which was very good. And the last race I'm going to talk about is the male district leader in the 87th Assembly District, which, because the Pamela Stewart Martinez slate was thrown off the ballot. All right, she couldn't, she got kicked off as state senator. She got kicked off as female district leader. So the new female district leader is Assemblywoman Carinas Reyes, believe it or not. And the male district leader, though, Reyes's male district leader, Justin Westbrook Lowry, was trounced by William Rivera, who got over 70% of the vote. William Rivera is the Community Board 9 chair, district manager. He was the chair at one time, then he became the district manager. So, I mean, we can see that throughout the Bronx, there are some strongholds and some weaknesses, correct?
Right. And, but as again, as I said, that as we start seeing the, people become older and become a little bit more towards their retirement age, they become a little bit more disengaged, and the people that we had leading the Bronx in the past, all the stalwarts are basically, they're gone. With the exception of you have Benedetto, you got Hasty,
Well, there were certain ones who didn't get challenged, like you say, Hasty. Kenny Burgess also didn't get challenged. I was waiting for.
But he's fairly new. He's a fairly new politician. He really doesn't have more than one term served. So he's part of that new regime and the younger generation.
Well, you know what? While we're about at our halfway point, we had one commercial already. But let's take a break right now for a commercial, and then we'll go into the congressional races and the state senate races that are on, if we could, Mr. Producer. We do not have our financial focus commercial. Okay, then let's go right into Congress. Okay, I see we're going to continue. I want to start in Manhattan because there are two interesting races in Manhattan. The 10th Congressional District at the bottom of Manhattan has 13 candidates. And this is why the second half is going to be full of this, because I want to go through the whole list. And once I'm finished with all 13 names, you tell me who you think is going to win, and I'll tell you who I think is going to win. We have, starting off with Mondaire Jones, who is the only one who doesn't live in Brooklyn or Manhattan. He lives in White Plains, and he's been called a carpetbagger already. We know he's
in a recent article, they called him a carpetbagger when supposedly he was out on a campaign trail.
We have current Assemblywoman Joanne Simon. There's Peter Gleason. I hope I get this name right. Yan Exlon. There's Daniel Goldman, Jimmy Liu, Maud Maran, our former mayor, Bill de Blasio, former controller, Elizabeth Holtzman, Yuli Liu, City Councilwoman, Carolina Rivera, Quadra Francis, and Brian Robinson. What do you make of that crew? Why is everybody running for that, and who do you think is going to win?
Well, remember this, that's a newly created seat. Even though it's the 10th district, it's been expanded into the, to the area in Brooklyn now, where that was Jerry Nally's district.
Right.
So now what happens? Right, that was all part of. So they created that district, and we'll discuss the 12th, which is now Nadler and Maloney and Patel, and there's one other individual in that race. But interestingly enough, you see everyone wanting to run for that congressional seat. And so it's going to be whoever is going to be really to get out the vote, because you have you have some, viable. Carlina Rivera just received the 1199 SEIU endorsement yesterday. And then now you see that, the de Blasio, even though you see him, out on the campaign trail, now things are starting to come out of his old administration as to what has happened. For example, just to give you, a thing about the travel with the NYPD during his presidential run, and then you have the audit by Brad Lander about his the ferry that he wanted it to stay at 275, so they had to find a way to maintain it at that level. And the contractor owes the city billions of dollars. So these little things, could potentially affect him. But he does have his loyalists in that area. Remember that some of that district was his old council. So the loyalists, if they do come out, then that could potentially, and he's a well-known name. Now Elizabeth Holtzman is a blast from the past. It will remain to be seen how much of a dent she could make in that race. And people were really supporting Carlina Rivera being as the sole Latina or the sole Hispanic running in that race as a female. So you have a lot of candidates. It's going to be number one. Remember we discussed the low turnout. Number two, who is going to get out their base. And I think that despite whatever messaging is going to, they're going to have, it's going to be who can get these people out to vote. So, that's going to be a good race.
So you're not going to predict any winner, huh?
Interestingly enough, I'm not going to predict any winner in that race. I'm not going to go so far as yet. I think we have by the end of this month. Right before, I'll be willing to take a chance. But as it stands right now, with the 1199, if 1199 commits to getting out the troops, remember 1199, even though they endorse, sometimes doesn't go full way and get the troops out. If they can get the troops out and shift it and make people go to the polls, it could probably be, between Rivera and de Blasio.
It seems though 1199 has gotten lazy over the years with their election day operations, that the people just sit on their lounge chairs and talk and have this as people walk by, whereas opponents will be talking to people and following them and talking to them, whereas the 1199 people here, that's it. So, I mean, we've seen it in past elections where 1199 back people lost. Okay.
And remember that 1199, usually when they send out their troops actually do door knocking. They go door knocking and they go to the people that are prime voters and they try to get them out. So if that's the case and they really put in manpower into that race, they could potentially, Carlina Rivera could make a dent in that district. It's a district as well.
I'm going to go with the man who tried to go to Washington before, and I think on his second try will be going to Washington as a congressman, and that's our former mayor, who was very popular. And like you said, he was the councilman from that area in Brooklyn. So I'm going to go with former Mayor Bill de Blasio to become Congressman Bill de Blasio. That's my choice.
I remember a small percentage of that congressional district covers his now Congress district, that 10th district. So, and whether or not those people will continue to be loyalists and go out and vote for him. So that'll be a key factor.
Well, his popularity as mayor should bring him in. The next race that's interesting in Manhattan is the 12th congressional district, where you said this area from the 10th was part of Jerry Nadler's district. What was done was Jerry Nadler is running against Carolyn Maloney in the same district. You have two heavyweights who were very influential in Congress, and now they have to run against each other. And there's Asi Seth, who is also running, and Suraj Patel, who gave Maloney a run last time. Any projections by you in this race?
Well, one thing to remember, Bob, That is the most Jewish district in the country, according to a New York Times report. Okay, and that's that newly reborn district. You know, and Nadler is the longest-serving Jewish member of Congress. Okay, both of them, Maloney and Nadler, both have served 30 years. We know that, you know, Nadler is the Judiciary Committee, and Maloney is Oversight and Reform. But if religion plays into this, remember Maloney is Presbyterian. You know, they consider Nadler as the more progressive candidate. And even though, you know, that is not a predominantly union district. Remember, that's a very high income district. That's a very high income district. Okay, there's very few middle class, you know, union members. 1199 gave the endorsement to Jerry Nadler, and he also has the support of Senator Warren, you know, and the Working Families Party as well. You know, one of the key things here is going to be, again, whether 1199 actually says, you know what, we're going to go out there and invest to maintain that progressive individual in Congress to see what we can probably get back in terms of legislation. You know, some of the things that, you know, they're knocking Maloney on was that, remember that Maloney was on the opposite side of the Iraq War. You know, Nadler didn't want the war, and he voted against the Patriot Act. And on the nuclear Iran deal, he voted yes. So Maloney was on the opposite side of that. You know, and a lot of people are staying away from that race, you know, because they see that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of high power in that race. You know, on the conservative side, the unions, the Uniform Firefighters Association, and the Building and Trade Councils have thrown their endorsement towards Maloney's side. And also, what's interesting is that Patel did an internal poll back in June, okay, of this year. And the New York Post reported on that. And that Patel poll showed a very close race, with Maloney being at 30%, Nadler being at 28%, and Patel at 19%. And Ashby's seat didn't poll that well, but was, you know, was far below. Again, you mentioned it. Patel did give Maloney a very interesting race the last time around, and did very well.
So who are you choosing?
If I'm going to make this upon two contingencies, if 1199 gets their people out there, right, and you know that that's a high-income district, so they're going to go out and vote. And if the religious people go out to vote just to maintain Nadler in, I think Nadler may pull it off. It could be a close race, but I think Nadler will pull it off. And remember that Nadler is now, as he's getting older, you know, his health is also suffering. So we discussed this about the older regime and all of that. So, you know, that's going to be a very interesting race. But I say that Nadler does pull it out in a very close race, making it contingent upon whether those two sectors, the 1199 and the Jewish vote, does go out and vote, and which that district does vote.
And if 1199 doesn't come out for Nadler, what is the contingency?
I think that would be make it an even more interesting race. Let's see what Patel's people can do. If Patel people can do, I think he may even supersede Maloney. May.
Right.
So, you know, potentially he could become in second place.
Well, I believe that the race between Maloney and Nadler are for the same voters, that they're not going to really take the Patel voters, and it's going to bring Nadler down and Maloney down where he should be able to win. And I'm going to go with Patel in that race. All right, so.
Interesting enough, you know, I've said this since I found out that they did that district and they redistricted, and I said this, that they should have sat down. Two high-powered individuals should have had a conversation and kind of ironed it out. Interestingly enough, Maloney recently said that had it been a male running against Adler, that they would have been able to work it out. So it's interesting.
So let's get to the Bronx, and we have a Bronx Manhattan district, which is the 13th, which Adriano Espiat has two opponents, Francisco Spies and Michael Hanno. I think this will be a very easy race to call. Who would you think is going to win this race?
It's going to be, again, I'm going to, obviously Adriano Espiat is going to have his people out there. Francisco Spies is not a well-known candidate, even though he has run for assembly in the past. He ran against Jose Rivera in 2020. The fact of the matter is that, Espiat is gaining momentum.
Well, I'm going to save time. I'm going to save time and say Espiat's going to win this one. Would you agree?
I would agree. I would agree. Let's see how much of a dent Spies can make, and that would be contingent upon whether a lot of the people that, obviously we have Jose Rivera, saying that the backstabbing and this and that, whether people that were on Jose Rivera's side will go out there and vote against. That's the anti-Espiat vote, which is usually about 10 to 20%.
Well, I don't see him losing. I see him, he's gotten George Alvarez in. I think he's looking to expand. Okay.
Absolutely. I think.
In the 14th is Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez. She has no race, but there is a Republican primary in the 14th Congressional District between Tina Forte, who lives in Nanuet, and Desi Joseph Cellular, who lives in Bayside. And I'm not going to touch that race because it doesn't matter who wins, AOC is going to beat them. Am I correct on that?
I think hands down, it's not 2020 where John Cummings who ran. John Cummings is, his name was it was a popular name. People knew him, and there was a lot of money thrown around back then. These two are not known, and not only are they not known, but we've never seen them in the Bronx. At least I haven't. Anyway.
The 15th congressional race, Richie Torres has no primary, and the only other part of the Bronx, which is Wakefield, about 25 blocks square, is the 16th, which is Jamal Bowman is the incumbent, running against Vadat Gashi from Yorktown, Catherine Parker from Rye, and Mark Jaffe from West Harrison. Do you think that Mr. Bowman can win, or will one of his opponents, since he's lost the whole part of the Bronx except for this, little area of Wakefield? He lost Riverdale where he won, and he lost Co-op City where he won big. So do you think that Mr. Bowman can win re-election?
Yeah, I think he can win re-election. You're talking about individuals that, even though it's good for democracy to have candidates running, they're really, again, maybe just trying to get their name out there. I have never heard their names.
Well, again, they're from upstate. They're in Rockland County.
They're probably doing very little campaigning, and so it's it looks like it's a win.
I mean, I suggested, if you heard last week's show, I said Rob Astorino should have run for this seat. He would have won it easily. So
it would have been a contested district, because remember, Astorino would have probably been able to get the down vote from the governors, from whatever November election, the governors, and that would have probably aided him, because remember that district now goes into Westchester, which is still a little bit, little bit still conservative Democrat, leaning Republican, and he's known in Westchester. He was the county executive, so he would have gotten a lot of the fall down vote.
Okay, we have 3 state Senate districts that have primaries, and I believe 3 don't. We have the 29th, which is Senator Serrano Jr., who doesn't have a primary. We have the 32nd with Senator Sepulveda, who doesn't have a primary, and the 36th with Senator Bailey, who doesn't have a primary. The 31st Senate district has come back into the Bronx. When I lived in Riverdale, I had Senator Adriano Espaillat as my state senator, and then it was taken away. It was an entire Bronx. What's happened now is if you live on Riverdale Avenue going up the hill, all right, Senator Biaggi's current office is now in the 31st Senate District. And if you go up to 35th Street, that goes into into the 33rd Senate District. So it goes up to part of Riverdale, goes across Kingsbridge and into Van Cortlandt Village. So it takes away the bottom part of the Hispanic area, basically, into this 31st Senate District, which is Manhattan. Robert Jackson is the incumbent, facing 3 challengers: Ruben Dario Vargas, Francisca Castellanos, and Angel Vasquez. I don't see any problems with Mr. Jackson winning re-election, and I don't think the Bronx is going to be a factor in that election.
Yeah, remember, Vargas has run a number of times. He's received a fairly small amount of votes. Castellano, Francisca has run a number of times as well. And the third individual, I don't know. But, it looks like Jackson expanding up into the Bronx, it should win him Manhattan. Unless they take a stand against him, here in the Bronx, maybe he may not win the Bronx. Because remember, they have the old rivalry, between the congressman and Mr. Jackson. So that could play here in the Bronx. But for the most part, I say Robert Jackson is going to be safe.
The 33rd Senate District, which was part of the 34th and 33rd, what happened was the special master took the top half of the 33rd District and the west half of the 34th District and made it into the 33rd Senate District. Senator Gustavo Rivera is the incumbent. However, the county organization backed Miguelino Camilo, who has no political experience except being a commissioner at the Board of Elections during the first, ranked choice voting. And when there was a problem with extra votes getting in there, sample ballots being mixed in with the votes, she said, well, it was human error. Well, I would think anybody who votes for her might make a human error, because I think Senator Gustavo Rivera has proven himself. And New York One and the Post have done stories where the Bronx Democratic County leader has said that, why didn't you run in the 32nd or the 34th? And Senator Rivera says, no, I live in the 30. Well, he doesn't live anymore in the 33rd, but the 33rd is my district, and I'm running in the 33rd. And that should be a very interesting race. I call that for Senator Rivera. Any comments quickly?
Bob, remember that the 33rd is my district, my home district, the senatorial district. And back in 2014, I made a run against Gustavo Rivera, and Oswald Police challenged my petitions, but I stayed in for the general in November. I haven't, over the years, been very happy with Senator Gustavo Rivera because, some of the issues that I believe could have been taken care of have not been taken care of. Obviously, he is now in charge of the Powerful Health Committee. During the pandemic, he wasn't really around too much. We talked about the Not 62 campaign, but the 1199ers are supporting him. And so let's see what happens there.
Who do you predict? Gustavo?
I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to stay away from that until I do a little bit more research. But by the end of the month, I will be definitely, and this time around, I will be definitely voting just for that race because that will be my senator. Although one thing, Bob, I'm not too happy with Gustavo Rivera's vote on the halt legislation, which we never see. It's similar to the bail reform that we have here, but only in state correctional facilities. So there's some issues that remain to be seen. I'd like to know Camilla's stance on that whole legislation because there is a lawsuit pending right now, and so I'm gonna make a decision, but I will do that towards the end of the month.
We got to quickly go into the 34th. We only have a couple of minutes left. We have Mr. Christian Amato, who originally ran. He's the only one that was the original. Then you have John Perez, who was going to run in the 32nd, but because of the 34th, he was a candidate in the 13th Congressional District last year, and he was also the district leader from the Park Chester Castle Hill area. And you have Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez, who originally wanted to go for the 34th State Senate District, but when County picked Camilo, she was a little disgruntled, and now she has a chance, although from what I told, she was made a pact with Christian Amato to support him against Camilo. And again, this is what I was told. So as long as I'm told, I can say it. And she decided to run for the 34th, which basically crushed Mr. Amato's feelings. He feels he's backstabbed by her. Now you have Mr. Amato and Ms. Fernandez, who are both very similar. They're both Black Lives Matter candidates. They're both defund the police. Natalia Fernandez, as you say, voted for the no cash bail. And along that way, she had a petition with AOC as the Congress, her as the Assembly. But she's the county candidate, I believe, in the 34th. She's working with county. She's working with AOC. I don't know who she's working with, it appears. So there's a race. Who do you think is going to get that race?
Well, interestingly enough, Bob, you have to remember that right now, I'm sorry to say this, but Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez is completely confused. I mean, if the voters don't know, they should be asking her, where do you want to work? Who do you want to represent? Because you ran for borough president recently, you were on the Assembly, and now you're looking to go for the state Senate. Usually you have a track record, you stay in one position, and then you work your way up as, slots open up, or as positions open up. So, I mean, credibility is very big for me, and I've always said that, Bob, you know that. Not knowing who you want to represent or what you want to represent, just representing is another thing. And right now, she is the assembly person for the district.
She's my assembly person.
So should she win for the state senate, she still will remain on the ballot for November as the assembly person.
Well, there might be no Democrat if she wins the primary for Senate, because she can't run for two positions. All right?
Exactly.
It's a
we're
question.
In a position where you're confusing everybody. You're confusing everybody.
Jose, we got 1 minute left, so let me wrap up. It's a question if can the Democratic Party put in another candidate or not? I want to thank you, Jose, for coming on to be my co-host when Anthony was he's in dire needs with helping a client in her moment while she passed away, unfortunately. And Anthony's taking care of all of that. And I want to thank all my viewers for watching and say goodbye and see you next week. And we'll have more on the local Bronx races for Senate and Congress. Thank you.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer. This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors.